did this. All right. Well, welcome to Contractor Conversations, where we go beyond the numbers and we talk with business owners about what it really takes to build a profitable business and a meaningful life. My name is Ryan Berry. I'm a fractional CFO and a business advisor, mainly to home service businesses, contractors, tradesmen, and tradeswomen. And on Contractor Conversations, this is where we speak to the CEOs of these businesses, the plumbers, electricians, HVAC, painters, carpenters, pressure washing companies, about the good, the bad, and the ugly, about the business, as well as their lives outside of the business and everything in between. On this show, we don't just talk about the business, we talk about the journey, talk about how you got here, what drives you, and how you balance all of that. And today I am joined by Nolan Buchanan. He's the owner of North Lake Pressure Washing out of Avon, Ohio, which is just west of Cleveland, Ohio. And Nolan, I am super excited to have you on the call today.
Yeah, appreciate you
Thanks
having me
for
on here,
being here.
Ryan.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. So let's start kind of with your story, like start at the beginning, and I think your beginning is probably very unique because of one specific fact, which is your age. And I don't want to like dwell on the age as a negative thing. I'm super just getting to know you, and I'm super proud of you. I think this is super inspiring, especially to other young people that are looking at this. But so let's, Nolan, how old are you right now?
Yeah, so I'm 18 right now, about to turn 19 in a couple weeks here.
18, and he is the owner of a pressure washing business, which is awesome. So let's start at the beginning. So how did you kind of get involved in I guess just business in general? Maybe let's start there, and then how you kind of dialed into the pressure washing business.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. Initially getting into business, I I wanted to start working before I guess I was the legal age to start working. So I tried to get a job when I was 14 and you couldn't do too much. I couldn't do what I really wanted to do. And I saw a lot of people. I was really influenced. I would watch like a lot of YouTube online on people making money online through e-commerce or anything digital that I can do without having to necessarily drive forward with a car and everything like that since I didn't have my license at the time. Really beforehand, I mean, I think I was kind of similar to some other kids like in middle school where I would play some video games and stuff like that and have fun outside and do all that. But as I started to look more into how people are making money online through YouTube and such, that kind of influenced me. And I knew I just always wanted to start something and have fun with it. And so the first thing that I kind of started with was an e-commerce store. It's called drop shipping. And so it's just like a little Shopify store that I made. And I would pretty much use a third party supplier like AliExpress to supply these products. And then I go ahead, run Facebook ads or any type of advertisements to go ahead and promote those products. That way I can sell them. Pretty much I was the middleman. Someone buys it. I order it from our supplier to their house. That's kind of how I originally got into all this here. So I was kind of influenced by that drop shipping thing for a little bit. And I did that for,
How old were you when you started that drop shipping business?
I was
You weren't even driving yet, sounds
probably
like.
about 12 or 13. Yeah. So
Oh my God. That's
yeah,
fantastic. Good for you.
yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
It was quite a bit. I wasn't necessarily of age legally to do too much, but I figured my way around it. So kind of something that I found on early, I guess, in age was that you can find your way around anything and how to do it if you really want to do it. So I figured out how to get into that. I did that for a little bit. I only made probably a few $100 when I first started, maybe a couple grands at max with that. And then I really started to look into something called day trading. The problem with e-commerce and everything like that was that you needed a decent amount of capital just to run your ads. And obviously, I didn't have any money at that time, so I had very limited money to put into the Shopify store and everything like that. So from there, I'd say about maybe a year later, after stopped playing with that, I got into kind of just buying penny stocks and selling them for a profit. And I was in this something called Discord. There's like it's almost like a platform where you can just talk with a bunch of people and have servers and communities with others online. And I was in one of those servers where a lot of them were trading those penny stocks and doing some day trading there. So I got into that a little bit. That was pretty fun. You know, I started out with pretty much little to no funds at all, and then I built that up to only a few $100s at that time. So I was really just playing around a little bit with working with myself and having fun with what I'm doing. I didn't really see it as a way to, um, you know, I wasn't solely doing this just to make a ton of money. I was actually enjoying what I was doing, and I thought it was something fun to do. You know, just like a video game is fun to play. That's kind of how I viewed this type of stuff. And so that's essentially how I found it. Um, and then later on, I'd say once I uh, had some experience with that, I think I was about 14. I had a power washer. Pretty much, I went to my grandparents' house. They live in Kentucky, and my grandpa's always teaching me things. And he had this power washer sitting out, and so he said, "Today I'm going to show you how to use this," and showed me how to use it on the driveway. I washed his driveway, like a little section of it, and then he let me keep it and take it home afterwards. So I took it back here to Ohio, and it kind of sat in my garage for about probably about 6 months or so, maybe a summer. Um, and then one day I was like, man, I need to start making some real money. Yeah, I'm having fun with day trading and all this stuff, but I really want to make some real money. I know it's possible you can make as much money as you want with really anything. But I just wanted to try something new. I was kind of trying a lot of ideas at that time. And I didn't have as much experience, obviously, as I do now. So now I know you kind of, at least for me, want to go on in one thing. And so I didn't know that yet. So I went ahead and got into power washing, and I got my first job. By actually I did my driveway and stuff for free at my house just to get some experience. And I got my first job by posting on Facebook groups. And from those Facebook groups, I went ahead and started to scale a little bit. I didn't have my license at that time, so I believe I was about 15 when I got my first job for somebody. And my brother had like a 2006 Toyota Camry that he wasn't really using much. And so we put the power washer in the back of that trunk, and it was like strapped where the trunk was open, ratchet strapped. It kind of looked all like pretty redneck. Um, and I got
You
my
were literally bootstrapping, right? The
yeah,
business.
yeah, it was pretty crazy. I actually got a picture of it. You can't really see it, but I pretty much had this 2006 Toyota Camry and this little Troy-Bilt power washer. I kind of like to keep it up here just to remind myself of that. But
Absolutely.
that's how I was going around for quite the time. My parents were driving me around to jobs, and pretty much I just did that until I built up the capital to buy much better equipment, and then I eventually bought a truck and got my license, and started out from there. So
So you said you're 18 right now. So you've been at this for 3-ish years, 3 or 4 years maybe.
I'd say,
Since
but
you
yeah,
really
about
since
3.5, 4 years there.
and so tell me. Well, first question is, did you have like you? So I resonate with what you're saying a lot because I had a mowing business when I was 12 years old, and like I got the entrepreneurial bug really early. I went a different path. I ended up going to college and going into corporate America, and I have some regrets about that. But at the same time, here I am. It's worked out okay for me. I get to sit here and talk to people like you, who are doing exciting stuff, and maybe living your dream. Hopefully, that's what it is, right? But you're taking action on the entrepreneurial spirit that you obviously have. Did anybody like parents, family, friends, like was there like an influence that you had for like just about business and entrepreneurialism?
It's a great question. Both of my parents are chemical engineers, so my mom had a business with one of her friends. Not necessarily, I'm probably butchering it, but some type of yoga deal or whatever like that. So she was in something like that, or maybe dog training dogs or something like that. So she was in a little bit of that, and I wouldn't necessarily say that was like a huge influence. I think right now I understand you kind of are who you surround yourself with. And throughout kind of like middle school and high school, I'd watch a lot of YouTube and I'd surround myself with kind of just getting better. I kind of got into self-improvement pretty early in middle school. And when I saw these people pretty young aged, you know, late teens or in their 20s making a good amount of money from things like day trading and e-commerce and stuff like that, or even home service companies starting out. That kind of influenced me. I was like, well, why can't I do this? Because sitting in school, I just knew it wasn't exactly for me. It was um, just kind of what I was learning was kind of just a waste of time for what I wanted to learn. I think I was being taught a lot of things that I didn't necessarily need to know that wasn't too important. And so that's why I didn't get the best grades either, because I didn't really care about the stuff that we were learning about.
Yeah.
And I think, it's definitely important to know how to read, write, and all that stuff. Absolutely. But I think it gets to a point where, you know, it's not as effective as it could be. And so after school, that's when I would start looking on YouTube, these tutorials on, how to start your business, how to get better at yourself. So I never read like any books in school at all. I would always just read up summaries and stuff like that. Cause again, it was just stuff I wasn't really interested in. But when I'd get home, I would read a ton of books just on self-improvement by myself and kind of study those. So I think there's a big difference between kind of learning what you want to learn, and not as well. So I could go into a lot deeper in that, but that's kind of like my point of view and kind of what happened for me.
It's awesome. Yeah, because you think about, you got the kids who, or whatever, they maybe enjoy school or whatever, feel like they have to do that path and they just do it. You got the other people who maybe felt similar to you, but then they maybe went down a bad path because they weren't challenged enough in the right ways, maybe went in kind of a negative space, and you took it upon yourself to go down the path that you wanted to go to in a positive way. So, kudos to you. Congrats for doing that. What it's only been 4 years, and I'm sure there's tons of growing pains, right? Especially as a young man doing this. Um, you know, not a lot of business training, education, financial education, definitely not in the schools and anything like that, right? What are those early days like when it finally became like a real business, right? Not when you were going around strapping the thing to your trunk doing a couple jobs, but when you really felt like it was a real business, like what were those early days like for you? Maybe when you were 15 or 16.
Just to relapse the question a little bit, it cut out a little bit. You're pretty much asking like when before it was a business, how everything
So
was
the
operating.
question really is like the early days when it finally became when you felt like it was a real business, like this is legitimate. I can make some, like, what were those early days like for you in terms of, it's like what's a day in the life of Nolan Buchanan, and just starting fresh as a new business.
Yeah, yeah. So essentially, I would go to school. I would wake up at a pretty early time, about 5:30 a.m. Um, before school started, and I had to leave. I believe I had to leave around 7 o'clock or something like that. So when I woke up, I would kind of just well, first of all, pray, and I would work out, get my mind right beforehand, and really just work a little bit on what I wanted to work on before the day started, because I had a little bit of time in the morning that was kind of peaceful before I had to, go into school and everything like that. I go to school, kind of just go there, obviously, because I had to. Throughout school as well, I would try to work as much as possible and get systems and procedures built, because that was one of the things that I was learning about. I was researching how to scale my current business from where I was, because I wasn't really a real business at the time. And so I was learning, how can I scale this thing and make it something that's real and that I can start making a living from. And so I'd watch all these videos. They're talking about like SOPs, processes, procedures, everything like that. So I'd start creating those when I was in school. And then after school, that's when I would actually do the jobs. I'd go to the estimates, I'd get everything done. And that's kind of how I built it up at first. And I'd say, I believe it was sophomore year that I just truly believed in what I was doing, and I kind of talked to my parents about that as well. And that's when I decided not to go back to school, and I kind of just went full in on the business. So
So they good for you. They bought into your dream and your philosophy as well, and let you take it on. That's awesome.
yeah,
Good for you. Good for you.
absolutely.
So as things started to grow for you, like who do you feel like you were? Is it like, I guess what I'm trying to get at, is there like a deeper meaning or purpose or an impact that you felt that you were offering to the community, whatever? Like, who do you feel like you're really helping when you're out in the business doing the work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's a couple ways I can answer that. First of all, the thing that I love about a difference between, for example, maybe an online business, like an e-commerce business compared to a home service company that's in person here is you don't need a ton of employees to do a pretty good amount on like an e-commerce business or maybe something digital that you're able to run a lot by yourself. The thing that I love about having a home service business in person here, especially power washing in general, is that we're able to provide a lot of opportunities for people to get into the space and to learn a lot. So we employ about 6 people right now that are, have an opportunity to work here. And so that's kind of another thing that I think about is, not only am I able to make a living for myself and do what I love here, but I'm also able to provide opportunities for other people who wouldn't have those opportunities if this business wasn't started. And so we have a great performance pay system here. We have so much opportunity to level up and work here as well. So that's something that goes into it, kind of something that separates us from a lot of other companies. There's no ceiling on the pay that a lot of people have here. That way they can move up and, do and perform however they would like.
Good deal. Good for you. It's amazing stuff. I'm very impressed with a lot of the stuff you're saying. There's a lot of stuff I help my clients with, and you're doing it at such a young age. Good for you. Has your has your why, like your big why, like if you have one, has it changed from when you were say 12, 13, 14, wanting to do things to 'cause this goes kind of maybe back to the meaning. You're obviously helping people, your employees have an opportunity and really, no ceiling for what they can do. Is there more to it? Is there anything? Is there a why, family, otherwise that really drives you?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So, I think when everybody first starts a company, maybe they started for freedom, maybe time freedom, location freedom, um, or financial freedom. And when I first started out, it was really to have that freedom, something to stray away from school. That way I didn't have to go to college and kind of go through that path because I knew I was a little bit different. But it was never really just about kind of having enough money to buy the materialistic things. That's never what it was about. What I think is a lot into the future. And my why and the reason I'm doing this is really to give back to the people who believed in me first and to give back as much as possible and to provide for, a future family and just as many people as I can give back to as possible that have helped me. So, especially my parents and being able to have a future, where the family has what they deserve. So that's kind of behind the why. And of course, providing opportunities for other people to work at the company as well. Being able to have such an amazing culture and environment at our company that is kind of different from more of a corporate structure where maybe people just go there to work an hourly rate where they're capped at. But they have a lot of opportunity here. They love coming into work every day. We have an amazing culture. One other thing that we do too, we're pretty strict about our hiring process just because if you have an amazing team and if you hire somebody that has a bad attitude or is just a bad influence on everybody else, it kind of spreads like cancer throughout the team. And so that's why we don't want that happening or them influencing everybody else. So there's a lot that we've worked on kind of leadership wise and team building wise over here that we continue to do. And that's kind of definitely one of the things I'm proud of at Northlake here that we're working on. So
Good stuff. Excellent. It's interesting when the purpose gets clear, which you definitely have that purpose, and I'm sure it's continuing to expand. Like uh, the way you run your business usually starts to change too, and it'll continue to evolve as that happens, as yours has, obviously, and will continue to do. So let's dig in a little bit more to like the business, more like the financial side of things, the numbers. Were there, I guess, first and foremost, like, were there any like major challenges that you had, whether that be financial related or hiring related, staffing problems that give us some kind of some things that were really like that was tough, but we made it through it, and maybe how you made it through, like one or two examples.
that's a great question. I mean, I'd say especially starting out, it you want to grow fast. You want to grow as fast as possible and scale fast. But when you have no capital from starting, it's a little bit different and a little bit harder. I was very grateful that my parents were able to drive me around in that Toyota Camry to bring me to jobs, or else I'd be kind of screwed. So appreciate that. That definitely helped. kind of something money can't buy there. And then I'd say as well, financial wise, is when I was first starting out, I had to, I realized and I noticed that I didn't have money to run ads. I didn't have this capital to start running ads, which was hard because I wanted as many jobs as possible. And sometimes, I'd be there without any estimates or leads or anything like that. And so what I started to do was go out and network. I started to meet new people, go up to companies. I started to meet new business owners, and that's kind of why I got into BNI in the first place, our networking group. Um, I visited my first BNI when I was like about 15 actually, 15 or 16, and um,
Before you were technically allowed to be part of BNI, right? I think you have to be 18, but so yeah, but you made it work. You figured
yeah,
it
yeah.
out.
So 15 or 16, I actually joined your group. Went through a lot. A lot of people were for it. A lot of people were against it. I didn't end up joining that group, but I went over to another one where I talked to them and I figured something out, and I was able to join. And I think I was 16 at the time, so I was able to find like a loophole through. And I'm pretty sure I was the youngest person in BNI at the time to
Yeah.
join a chapter. Now of course, since I'm 18, I was able to change it into my name, but there's always a loophole around everything. That's kind of something I learned um, as I was building the business, and as I continue, I am. So yeah,
Right. If you want it bad enough, you'll figure out a way to make it work,
yeah,
right? Did
absolutely.
you from just from an education, like just running a business and dealing with finances and the accounting for what you were doing, I assume that was just you had to learn by experience and learn the hard way through all of that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I was always pretty responsible with my money. I didn't pay myself up until this past year, and I still I'm not really making anything right now because I'm investing a lot back into the company. And so that's what I did for the first couple of years at least. And I wouldn't ever, this is also the thing. I didn't have a credit card, when I was 16 or 17. I figured out a way to get it, but when I
I'm
first
sure you
started, I
did.
didn't have one, and so it's not like I can use a ton of credit card debt and leverage that. And that was never what it was really about. I always had enough in the account where I would be pretty comfortable. Of course, stuff happens where you have a machine breakdown, or um, maybe you learn a few lessons that you need to pay for, and that definitely happens. But I think I was always pretty responsible with it, and I think when I was about to turn 17 or already 17. We have a business bank account, of course, that I had to put under my mom's name, and I couldn't get a credit card under my name under the the business that would actually count towards credit and everything. So it took me a few weeks to figure that out, and I found a way around that. And then when I turned 18, I got it fully established. But yeah, I think I was always pretty responsible with that. And even now, it's a lot harder as you continue to grow because you have a lot more expenses, fixed expenses, and people on payroll. If machines or trucks break down, it gets expensive. So you got to be very careful and you got to be responsible with your money. And that's definitely something that, I'm trying to be as careful as possible doing. So.
Good. Well, is there one thing like if you could, and maybe it's being responsible. Like, is there one thing that you think most contractors get wrong when it comes to money, or are doing wrong, or irresponsibly? Is there any like, and I don't know if you talk to all the other pressure washing companies, or if you guys, or just other trades in general, is there anything that you see?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I'm sure you know this, but a lot of these companies aren't exactly what they seem like. It seems like they're doing. I was just talking to my buddy about this. He's actually a couple years older, and he has a shop behind me. We shared a shop, like our first shop together in Bay Village there. Now we have two separate shops together here off of Mills Road in Avon. But um, we were talking about how you could have a $30 million company and profit 1% and only have 300 grand in EBITDA, as opposed to having maybe a company doing 5 million and a 25% to the bottom line EBITDA. So it's like a little bit different. You're making more money at that 5 million mark than that $30 million mark, because you're a little bit more profitable. And there's so many companies too that are going into that credit card debt that I've personally talked to and continued to, that have made that mistake early on, and obviously now they've learned their lesson. But it's really hard to get out of that hole once you dig it. because it continues to compound. And so that's something I never really wanted to start with. And I'd probably say that's the biggest thing is, don't bite off more than you can chew. And be pretty responsible with your money, have a little bit of a savings up as well. So
Yeah, it's you're like you said it earlier, like most people, like you want to grow, you want to just grow so fast, and
yeah,
revenue is what most people think about. I got to find ways to grow more revenue. But if you're operating inefficiently, you've got way too many expenses, and you start building debt. You're right. That 1% margin, net margin, doesn't really pay for family and
yeah.
house and everything else. It gets a little tough. Well, that's good stuff. Let's change gears a little bit, right? None of this works well if you yourself and your staff, your team is burned out, running on empty, right? So what about just kind of like how do you kind of check yourself out from the business? Like do you exercise? Like what from a health perspective and body and like how do you kind of manage the balance between the work in your
Yeah,
life?
that's a great question. And you know, I've thought about this. I I always think about work. I think it's kind of hard to just go home and turn off like the thinking part of your brain. You're always going to think about something, and like I honestly can't really sleep in anymore because once I wake up and even if it's for a second, you start thinking about maybe something you forgot to do or something you missed, and then you just can't fall asleep after that. So I mean, for me, I don't think that part of my brain ever turns off. Which it is what it is. I mean, I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I do enjoy the stress too. I was just talking to my buddy about this too. Like during the wintertime when we don't have as much to do, it kind of sucks because you enjoy the stress and you don't really realize it until you're in like a slow period like that. But to answer your question as well, something that I do is I have kind of a routine. So when I wake up, I'll exercise. Sometimes if I can't in the morning, go to the gym. I'll go after work when I'm done. That's kind of a non-negotiable as well. So one of the things, like I've just learned so much these past few years, one of the things is to have some non-negotiables, and that's one of them going to the gym and making sure I'm eating right as well. Because if you start slacking off and doing that, it's super easy to go to the gym for a week and then stop going a week after, and you just get back in your sloppy habits. So one of the books I read that actually kind of helped me with that was Atomic Habits. Love that book. And then that was a really good one just to learn how to keep my habits going that way. I do have a pretty good balance, and I generally enjoy what I'm doing and what I'm building. So sometimes when I think about that, or maybe it's a lot, I just think back to the why and like what I'm building and kind of put this into perspective a little bit. Because I think everybody who's kind of wired like this is always going to want more. It's never going to be enough. And so when you remind yourself of that and kind of where you're at right now, I think that helps a little bit. But yeah, I mean, even when I'm taking a shower, going on a walk, or working out, that's pretty much like my rest from work, I would say.
Well, and you're, excuse me, you are wise beyond your years for sure. You're saying some amazing things. I love the concept of the non-negotiables because there are so many business owners. A lot of people don't start their businesses till their 30s, 40s, and they that's it. Like it's 100%. They forget about exercise and healthy eating and like just like we only have one body, right? So we have to take care of it as well. So good for you. That's amazing stuff. What about like so you've got the work, which is obviously busy and it takes a lot of the focus as it does to any entrepreneur. Makes total sense. You balance it out with just the exercise and the health. What about like relationships as well with family, significant other, friends? How do you keep all that going at the same time?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't have a ton of friends. Of course, I think there's a difference between like acquaintances and friends. People people you actually spend time with and make time out of your day to do that. Um, Pretty much my best friend has a shop behind, as I mentioned, he has a landscaping company. So um, he's scaling quite a bit, and we'll do things on the weekends like go buy a new truck for his company or buy something for us, and like so we'll go on like a ton of road trips and stuff like that to do essentially work things, but still have fun doing it. It's kind of just being with one of your friends and then chilling out. So that's kind of like something chill to me. really getting into church as well. And I love spending a lot of time in Bible study groups as well. So we have a Bible study group with um, a few guys who actually are a little bit older than me. They're in their 20s, but they have some very successful businesses, and they're kind of at the point where the money's not really an issue. They're kind of retired at this point, and they're selling their companies, and they don't know what's next. And I know, eventually, I could be at that level to seeing what's next after that. Of course, you're always going to want more, but it's like, what can you provide beyond that? And so that's something that I love, enjoy. Like I just really love and enjoy my time spending with. Of course, I try to do as much as I can with my parents as well. I actually work with my mom. She has a desk right behind us here, so I spend a lot of time with her,
Nice.
regardless, which I enjoy. But yeah, that's essentially what it is. I only really have one, two close friends, my
That's all you
girlfriend,
need,
and
man.
that's it.
That's
Yeah,
that's all you need. Like you can't too many people, too many friends that they get in the way. And then so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You focus on that small group of friends and make those the most meaningful that they can be, right? I think that's great. So we've talked about like a lot of stuff. We've talked about the business, your health, the health, body, relationships, purpose, all that stuff. If you look at across all of those things, which I think you're doing an amazing job of balancing all of that, which one would you say is the hardest to manage out of all of that? And in which one maybe are you the most proud of? And I'm super
good
proud of
question.
you for just like your business, for what you've done at this age and how young you started. Like I'm super proud and impressed with what you've created. So maybe like what do you think is the hardest to manage? Or maybe it's just like the combination of all of them. It's hard,
Appreciate
but
it.
it's worth it, right?
I'd say the hardest thing is probably starting. Maybe I'm really big into kind of like the self-improvement. Maybe starting a new skill because it takes such a decent amount of time to build the skill. And then you have to have that discipline and make it a non-negotiable every day to stick to that, or else it's not going to turn into a habit. So that is definitely one of the things. But outside of that, I'd say kind of a combination of everything, making sure I'm spending enough time with my girlfriend. And it's a little bit different of a model, but I'm pretty thankful that I have someone that supports what I'm doing, kind of sees the vision at the end of the road, and is okay with me investing in a lot of time into building the business. That way down the line, once I'm married and have a family, I can provide for us. And so I think it's really important to be with somebody, relationship wise, that can understand that. And because I see a lot of guys who, can be easily destroyed by that stuff if, maybe you have somebody who doesn't really support you, or doesn't understand a clear vision. So I think it takes, a specific type of person. But to answer your question overall, I'd say just a combination of everything and always continuing to try to get better. One thing that comes into mind specifically for me is just when you could have done better at something, you want to reach your full potential. Like something I'm always thinking about is, we live once. Why would you not try to reach your full potential and see what you can really do? And so I think about that pretty often, and always thinking about how to get better here. So
It's amazing. So many people don't, right? Everybody, we all spend too much time on these stupid things, scrolling, doom scrolling through whatever, Instagram or TikTok or whatever. There's so many things we could be doing to improve ourselves. Yeah, it's okay to do that once in a while, but like I love what you just said. That's amazing. So we're kind of getting close to the end. I got a couple rapid fire questions for you. So just like right off the top of your head, like what comes to mind, whether it's one word or go on as far as you want to. But first one is, what's the biggest mistake that you've made in your business?
yeah, it's a big one. Biggest mistake I've made in my business, I would say not not building the systems and processes soon enough. Um, I think the best learning is really the real experience. The best learning is obviously figuring it out yourself, and it's really good if you can talk to somebody else who made those mistakes so they can save you from years of doing that. And so many people have done that for me, which I'm super grateful for through networking and everything like that. But for some things you just got to learn on your own. I definitely say hiring, you want to make sure, you hire some qualified people who you train up as well. So when I say those SOPs and those procedures, training procedures, you know, guys who know how to drive the trucks, do a lot of training on everything. Like we have an entire platform. We have actually an app called North Lake Air that has all of our technicians and employees have a login to. And when they first get onboarded, there's an orientation in there that shows them exactly what to go through, a trainer to show them, and they have to graduate the training and be complete to be a certified technician. So we have that in place now. I'd probably say um, that's the number one thing that I would have done a little bit sooner. That way, if we had that in place a little bit earlier and I knew more about the number side of things, we would be so much further ahead. Because a lot of people don't know their numbers at all. They don't know their average ticket, their average job size, their conversion rate, their booking rate. All of that comes into play so much because if you don't know any of those numbers, how are you going to predict how much you're going to make? How are you going to see the margins on what you're doing? So now I know exactly what each technician has to bring in per day, what our sales reps have to sell per day, um, just for us to operate and have a healthy margin. So I think, yeah, the numbers and the procedures is probably the biggest one.
Don't beat yourself up too much because almost almost nobody actually has a written SOPs. So you are way ahead of your peers, no doubt about it. Question
Yeah.
two: what's the best decision you've ever made in the business or in personal, whatever, either way?
Best decision I ever made. Um, I'd say first of all, like trusting in God. And then other than that, really starting my business in the first place. Because if I didn't start this, who knows where I would be? I mean, I know for damn sure I wouldn't be in school doing any of that. And I know, so I probably would have figured something out, but I think, this happened for a reason. And I started this company for a reason to be able to provide opportunity for not only myself, but other people as well. And so the best decision, hands down, that I've made is starting this company. It's such a blessing to be able to work with my mom and have just I can't imagine if I was raised in a different family where everything was different. I don't know if I'd be you don't know. I don't know if I'd be as much as I am in self development and improvement. I don't know if I would if I'd started this business, if I would get a lot into reading the books to better myself. So it's crazy to think about. I think everything happens for a reason, but that's what I'm most thankful for, and I'm most glad that it's happened as well. So
Nice, nice. What is one number that every contractor should know? You talked about numbers, about knowing your numbers and everything a little bit just a few minutes ago. But what is one number that is absolutely imperative that every contractor should know?
like as far as a KPI goes,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, I was cutting out for a second.
Sorry. Sorry about
You know, I would say conversion rate. Just because if you have 100 leads coming in the door and you have a 10% conversion rate, you're missing out on all of those other leads and you don't know why. One of the things could be like this is something we were doing. I realized, our reporting set a 65% closing rate, which is pretty good. But we were realistically doing 20 to 30%. And what I figured out, there was a lot of issues in our reporting with our CRM. And the other thing was when I was giving estimates, I was giving an ultimatum. It's this price, $500, yes or no, as opposed to options. And so I found out when you give options on things, it's which option are you going to choose instead of a yes or a no for just one option there. So I think that is probably one of the biggest things. I'm sure there's something more important that I'm not thinking of right now, but that's something that's
it.
changed with our business
That's
dramatically.
Yeah, it's super important. And again, so many people don't track it. So kudos to you for doing that. One more question. What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone that's just getting started? Put yourself back into your 14-year-old self.
I would just tell them to be persistent and never give up, no matter who they're surrounded by that they can't really control. Because I know a lot of people's parents aren't on the same page as them. Um, Remember, you are who you surround yourself with, and you start developing the habits of the people you surround yourself with. And I realized that pretty early on. And I didn't have anybody to surround myself with that, except, of course, my parents were great, but I didn't have any friends or anything like that was similar to surround myself with. And so what I did is I surrounded myself with those YouTube videos. Not sure if that's healthy or not, but it worked for me, and it continue does. Or surround yourself with the books. Like you kind of just got to be in some solitude for a little bit and really believe in yourself. Know that it's possible. Anything's possible. People do crazy things. Anything that somebody else has already accomplished is 100% possible. And even somebody that hasn't accomplished it yet is still possible. It's really how far are you willing to go, and kind of what's your why behind everything too. So I'd say never give up on what you really want to do because you can make it work.
I love that comment too about like being comfortable or being okay with solitude. Like put yourself in there and make the best use of that time when you are alone. Well,
Right.
this is awesome, Nolan. I appreciate you sharing all of this. I think there's a ton of value in hearing the full picture, right? Not just the business side. We get to know you personally a little bit as well. Where is the best place for people to go find you to learn more about
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
do?
Um, Anybody can really just find me on Facebook at Nolan Buchanan. You'll see North Lake Pressure Washing or like a little otter logo on my profile picture there probably. Or you can find me there on Instagram. I think it's real Nolan Buchanan. Someone took my username. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me. As far as everything goes, I always love entertaining conversation. I think you can learn from anybody. And
What about
yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. I really enjoyed talking and I appreciate it.
yeah, what about a business website that you want to put that out there if anybody wants to check that out?
Absolutely. Northlakepw.com. If anybody's looking for any power washing needs or maybe it's a commercial property, we can definitely take care of that. So I'd love anybody to reach out that is interested in those services and maybe hasn't had it done before. One thing that I'll just sneak in really fast too, there's no license, especially in Ohio, to be a power washing company. And so anybody can just throw a power washer in the back of their truck, say that they know how to power wash. And next thing you know, they're using a high pressure on a surface that's supposed to be soft washed, and that can really damage it. And a lot of these guys are not going to have insurance that are driving around doing this stuff. So choose a company that knows what they're doing, that has a training and education platform for all technicians coming in that they have to graduate. Pick a company that knows what they're doing, that's insured, and that's Northlake. So we'd love to help you guys out.
Awesome, awesome. Good stuff. Well, for those listening, if you're a contractor trying to get a better handle on your cash flow, your profitability, your margins, your processes, or just gain clarity around the business that you have, that's exactly what I help people with. You can go check out ramcfo.com. That's RAMMCFO.com to learn more and book a call with me. Nolan, it's been great. Thanks again for being on Contractor Conversations. So great to have you today.
Really, thank you.